G'day. Police Horse Cody, Mounted Constable Steve. I've been out riding all morning. Going to make a couple of quick videos. The lad did a really good job. We did a lot of trotting and cantering today around obstacles. So this is when people say, is that horse dead? Is that horse lazy? He's had a tough morning. Anyway, we're back now and we're going to make a Ned Kelly video. And this Ned Kelly video is to tell you about that in a short space of time, Ned earned quite a reputation. I've said before that people didn't want to dob Ned in, and so if you're on the camp that says Ned's a wonderful person, you said that's because everybody loved him. The reality is everyone was terrified of Ned Kelly. How can you prove that, Steve? Am I just saying that? Well, how about this? Ned was just around his 14th birthday, could have been 13, and a man got charged with stealing sheep. The sheep that he stole hadn't been branded in any way because they were young, so it's very difficult to prove whose sheep they were. The police took an attempt anyway to take him to court because he couldn't prove where he got the sheep from, so maybe we can go for unlawful possession. What happened though is he had a witness, and that young witness, who was probably 13 at the time, appeared in court, and that was Ned Kelly. First court appearance as a little boy. And he gets up in court and he swears on the Bible that those sheep were his. And when he's asked about why they're not branded, why they have no markings, where did he get them from, his excuse is that they were just abandoned baby lambs that he nurtured and raised as pets. That was the evidence he gave under oath in court, and so the man that was charged got off scot-free. Here we then have very young teenager Ned realising that in court, under the Westminster system, you've got to be proven guilty. You are innocent until, beyond a reasonable doubt, you're proven guilty. So you just think about it. What's the one thing that's really going to get you? I'm just pausing for a minute because I want you to quickly think, what's the one thing? Witnesses! Witnesses. So, I've got a piece of paper here. You say, Steve, why have you got a piece of paper? Well, that's because there's so many of them. So we're not going to do these in date order, but a couple of sheep herders by the name of surnames Murray and O'Leary, near Kyneton in Victoria, they got bailed up, held captive overnight and robbed by Ned Kelly. When the police attempted to investigate this, they couldn't find the sheep herders. So Cody's chewing on my message pouch. You're eating government property there, mate. I'm sure there's some horrendous penalty for that. Eating government property. Anyway, the two sheep herders couldn't be found, and so the charges against Ned for robbing the two sheep herders didn't go ahead. Let's move on then. So let's talk about Joseph Polowski. So Joseph Polowski went to the police and said he was bailed up by Ned Kelly, who was armed with a shotgun, and robbed him of £5. The police wanted to proceed with that, and they laid charges, and then when it was going to go to court, Joseph Polowski had disappeared and couldn't be found anywhere. So we've got two sheep herders, now we've got Joseph Polowski. So we'll move on now, and then Morris Solomon witnessed an assault in a store. The storekeeper had left. He'd left his young daughter in charge of the store. Morris Solomon was in there, and he saw Dan Kelly come into the store with others. They ransacked the place. They behaved badly. They exposed themselves and put the young girl in fear of being raped, assaulted. She barricaded herself in a room. They smashed their way into the room, and Morris Solomon saw all this. So the police attempted to charge Dan and those other blokes with lewd behaviour and malicious damage and assault. And of course, when the matter was on its way to come to court, Morris Solomon had completely disappeared and was never seen or heard of again. So let's move on. There's a Chinaman. There's a bit of a thing about his name because he was a Chinaman and no one could pronounce his name. And he wanted to go to the police and complain about being robbed by Ned Kelly. So perhaps they were wags, but they said when you go in there you need to have a sort of an English sounding name, Australian sounding name. So your name will be Orfok. A-H, capital F-O-K, Orfok. Okay, let's forget the humour of that name. The fact is, he was robbed of 10 shillings at gunpoint by Ned Kelly, and the police are desperate to get something on Ned because he's a local yahoo, thief, troublemaker. Yes, let's do it this time with the Chinaman Orfok. Completely disappears, can't be found. They go to the Chinese camp, they search the Chinese camp, they ask. No, he's disappeared. Okay, so we'll move on then. And now we come to what will be a separate video, is all about Ned's organised crime ring on the Victorian New South Wales border, stealing stock and horses, cutting out brands, but we're going to come to that in a separate video. Big topic, Ned's organised crime ring. But in Benalla, one of the places where the Victorian crime was taking place as far as buying and selling stock, there was a pound keeper in Benalla. His name was Alexander Whitler. Sometimes the records show Whitlow, but it was Whitler. And he could identify Thompson, the principal person that brought stock in and sold stock there, Thompson. He could identify Thompson. And the police knew Thompson was an alias and it was Ned Kelly. And so the police wanted to get Whitler to identify this man, Thompson, as Ned Kelly. He lived in Benalla, he had a business in Benalla, he had an important job, and he disappeared and was never seen again. So really, there's 5 separate incidents of people, eyewitnesses to crimes committed by Ned, and in one case Dan, and it never finally went to court because they ended up being put in the boot of a Cadillac and taken out to the Nevada desert. Or, you know what I mean? The bush, the Australian bush of northeastern Victoria, you could hide a body there today, let alone back in the 1870s. So that's one of the reasons why so little action was taken against Ned. Now people make up all sorts of stories about him. I mustn't trip over into other videos because, of course, one of the big videos is going to be the Stringy Massacre, where Ned murdered 3 police officers in cold blood and one managed to escape. And the fact is, thank goodness McIntyre managed by sheer luck to escape, otherwise there'd be 4 more names on the list of lost, disappeared, never to be seen again. Rightio, end of the video. Not popular with the Ned fans, are we, mate? But then, coppers aren't always popular anyway, are they, eh? No. Rightio, cheers.